Hi, everybody. Dan Illman, Mike Beer with the DRF Race of the Day, presented by DRF. That's the race of the day for Saturday, October the 15th. Grade 1 stakes action at Keeneland. Race number 9, the Queen Elizabeth II Cup. Mile and an eighth on the turf, 3-year-old filly, $600,000 is the purse. Let's take a look at this field. Please scan the QR code for Race of the Day access on mobile. Not surprisingly, Chad Brown has the two morning line favorites in this race. The 6 McCulloch is one of the better 3-year-old filly turf horses in the country, but she's really improved at longer distances. Mike, how do you feel about her cutting back to 9?
Yeah, that's a good point. I do think that she probably did improve with more distance. I also just feel like more than anything else, Dan, she's just come back better as a 3-year-old. I suppose at a short price, you could look at her and say, maybe cutting back to 9 furlongs works against her. And that would probably be fair, but I still think she's way the horse to beat.
Looking over the field's past performances, you don't see a lot of speed, and Timeform US concurs as we take a peek at the pace projector. It's the very rare gray bar scenario, no speed. From Southern California comes the 5 Bella Bell, a horse that's been a mid-pack runner out in Del Mar and Santa Anita. Gina Romantica has shown speed in slow-paced races, but is more of a stalker. I wonder if Florent Giroux is going to get aggressive with the European invader, the 7 Paris Peacock.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if that horse has, any speed at all, because this would be a good time to use it. After, just sort of looking everybody over in this race, Dan, I did think the 5 Bella Bell could easily make the lead. I know she hasn't been on the lead in any of her last 3 starts, but she gets forward in her races and they consciously rate her, which is something they don't have to do today.
A horse that does like to come from behind, however, is the number 1 California Angel. And an angle for California Angel is she likes Keeneland. Her signature victory came last year in the Jessamine, where she rallied from left field to win. She was put in some very tough spots after that. It looks like maybe she's rounding herself back into form. I like that they gave her the summer off. She came back in the Dueling Grounds Oaks. This race at Kentucky Downs last time out. She stayed relatively close for her down towards the inside. She finished okay for third behind Vergara, who was controlling throughout.
Yeah, she's not a real threat in this race, and overall, I thought she got a pretty good trip. Listen, she's going to wind up coming back on and getting up for third over New Year's Eve, who's also back in this race. Personally, I thought New Year's Eve ran the better race here. You can go back to March at the fairgrounds. This horse finished ahead of New Year's Eve that day as well. New Year's Eve ran the better race that day. I'm not going to knock this horse because she's one of the bigger prices on the board. And when you get right down to it, Dan, she's run well in all 5 of her turf starts. But I still feel like there's a lot working against her here.
The longer priced of the 2 Chad Brown train runners is the number 2, Gina Romantica, very expensive yearling purchase by Into Mischief. She won a restricted stakes race at Saratoga 2 starts back, and then she was the beaten favorite last time with perhaps an excuse in the Grade 3 Pebbles. Let's watch this race right now. It's a mile at Aqueduct, and the winner of this race just got loose. I was able to shake clear through a half mile in 49 and 2. Gina Romantica tried to get into it with a 4-wide bid on the turn and is pretty game to run second. I just think she was up against it from a pace standpoint. Maybe she'll be up against it again on Saturday.
Yeah, we'll see if she can get closer, because I don't think she's, so slow that that's an impossibility. She went fine in there, I think. The winner did have all the best of it that day. Gina Romantica tried really hard. I guess that was an okay effort, Dan. She won her turf debut 2 back. She got a perfect trip into a great setup that day. There was a little traffic and upper stretch for her, but all in all, that trip really worked out. I guess you could say that she's improved on turf, but I didn't think she was going to be a great price in here, and I still don't think she's that good.
Stepping up into the stakes ranks for the first time is a sharp horse, the number 3, She's Gone, who's won 2 out of her last 3 starts. She came from off the pace last time out to beat a couple of minor next out winners at Kentucky Downs. She'll now have to stretch out to a mile and an eighth. I'm not worried about that, but it's her running style. She is more of a closing type that could use a little help up front.
Yeah, and it seemed like when she won the most recent win of hers there at Kentucky Downs, she had a pretty good setup there. They did not walk in front of her, and I just don't think they're going to give her a setup this time, which works against her. On the other hand, she's 30-1 on the morning line, and she feels like she's improving with every start.
New Year's Eve is the number 4, and we saw her finish 4th in the Dueling Ground Oaks, but it was a race where she tried to make a wide move into it. She flattened out a little bit. I think you can make a lot of excuses for some of her recent races, and if you go back into the spring, she was doing some really good work.
Yeah, exactly. And I think what's notable about the differences between the races from the spring and the summer, Dan, is the races in the spring were a little shorter and the races through the summer were longer because when you're running in the major races for the 3-year-old turf fillies through the summer, you got to go long. I don't think it helps this horse. I don't think she wants to go that far. And I think that was one of the problems in that most recent start where she made a wide move and flattened out. Shorter is better for her. I think 9 furlongs is a good distance for her. She's already beaten McCulloch. And I thought that she beat her fair and square that day in a really good performance in the Edgewood. I think there's a lot to like about this horse.
Are you concerned, though, about the pace? She was able to stay relatively close in the Saratoga Oaks 2 starts back. The pace wasn't very fast that day. Or do you prefer her just, listen, you're going to take her back, make one run, and maybe she's the best closer. If the field's bunched up, maybe the best closer wins.
Yeah, I don't think you can really take her out of her running style too much. And, in the Saratoga Oaks 2 back, they did keep her a little closer. She ran fine that day, Dan. I mean, she was in the photo for second with McCulloch.
The Southern California turf horses often get short shrift nationally, but the 5 Bella Belle's a contender in this race for trainer Phil D'Amato. She won her first 2 starts in North America, including the Grade 2 San Clemente. Here's her most recent start, the Grade 1 Del Mar Oaks, going a mile and an eighth, and the pace was solid. She did stay close, as Mike mentioned early, and she fights on to be second behind Spenderella, who's a pretty good horse that was shipping out west for Graham Motion. Other than Spenderella, I didn't love this field, but her pace situation could really help her out in this spot. She's got good tactical speed.
I do think that makes her a little bit interesting here. I actually really liked her first 2 starts stateside. She won those 2 races very easily, and I was pretty impressed, Dan. I don't necessarily think the 9 furlongs helped her last time. The flip side of that is Spenderella's really good, and she probably would have been the favorite if they ran her in this race, and they just gave her the rest of the year off, I guess. So I think that's maybe rates for giving Bella Bell a little bit of the benefit of the doubt for the Del Mar Oaks last time.
McCulloch never off the board from 7 lifetime starts, winner of the Belmont Oaks and winner of this race, the Jockey Club Oaks. Now, this race is going a longer distance. She's going a mile and 3/8 at Aqueduct. She gets to the outside, and it looks like she's just going to roll right on by. And for a brief second, when she made the lead, I think she kind of loses focus. She drifts out a bit. She swaps leads a couple of times. Irad quickly rights the ship, and McCulloch goes about her business. She's just the fastest horse on paper right now. She cuts back to a mile and an eighth, but she's not a one-run closer. She's tactical enough to work out a trip.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think she's going to be too badly compromised by a slow pace. And I don't, really have anything to add about anything else you said, Dan. She's just way the horse to beat. She's come back really good this year.
Paris Peacock has really improved in her last few races for trainer Jessica Harrington overseas, and a mile and an eighth seems like a very good distance. Now, she hasn't faced the creme de la creme in Ireland, but she is coming into this race in good form. In her last start, that race at Gowran Park, more of an American style she utilized. She kind of was perched outside without cover turning into the stretch. She made the lead early. Looked like for a second she was going to wait on horses, but then she dug in and she won nicely. If you don't believe this is the strongest QE2 field in the world and that this horse has shown some speed overseas, there are worse 10-1, 12-1 shots.
Yeah, I agree with that. And you never know if the running styles are going to translate over there. She can keep right up close to the pace. It's a little different over here sometimes, but it just feels like this race isn't going to be run at a fast clip, and that could help her. Personally, I can't say that I love her form over in Ireland, but I won't be surprised if she's effective here.
We will be stepping up in class. Before we get to our top selections, please click the subscribe button on the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel for all the latest DRF video previews. Top pick time for our race of the day presented by DRF Bets. You're going with New Year's Eve. You've always been a fan of this horse. She's always shown some talent. She's just had a couple of troubled trips and situations where it didn't work. You might get rewarded cutting back in distance with a really playable price.
Yeah, I think she's going to be the right kind of price to maybe take a shot with her. She's got her work cut out for her with McCulloch because I do think the 6 is way the horse to beat in here, but I can take a shot against her with this horse.
Well, you can argue that Gina Romantica, despite being a stakes winner, despite winning half of her 6 lifetime starts, has been a bit of a disappointment considering her gaudy sale price. I do think she has upside. I do think she was pace compromised last time out when she was wired. And I think Flavien Prat's going to try to work out a trip where he's a little bit closer this time. Obviously, she'll be a better price than the horse to beat, McCulloch. 4-6-5-2 for Mike, 2-6-7-3 for me. The Saturday race of the day presented by DRF Bets, the Grade 1 Queen Elizabeth II at Keeneland. Good luck.